Wake up, please, wake up!
What?
I'm here, stay with me. This passage here, it speaks of a hidden truth.
Yes, I see it now. The symbols align.
We must decipher it.
The girl under the
The
bridge.
symbols are aligning.
The night was
Yes,
colder
just
than
as
usual.
The prophecy foretold.
Rain fell from the dark sky
Your
like
reign
shattered
ends
glass,
tonight.
hitting the
You
empty
dare
streets
challenge
without
me?
mercy.
do, for the people.
Most people were safe inside their warm
They're
homes.
closing in.
I won't
But
let
under
them
an old,
touch you.
broken bridge, a girl was trying not to freeze. Her name was Era. She was 19 years old. And she had nothing. No family. No home. No one waiting
Your
for
reign
her.
ends tonight.
You
Only
dare
a thin
challenge
blanket.
Me?
I do, for
And
the
a
people
tired
and prepare
heart.
to fall.
She sat with her knees pulled close to her chest, breathing softly so she wouldn't waste energy. Her clothes were old. Her shoes had holes. Her hands were rough from working too much and eating too little. Every morning, she woke before sunrise. She worked part-time at a small cafe. Washing dishes. Cleaning floors. Serving rude customers. For very little pay. Her manager often shouted at her. Be faster. Don't be useless. You should be thankful I even hired you. She never answered back. Because she was afraid. Afraid of losing the only job she had. Without it, she would starve. After work, she always returned to the bridge. To her small corner of darkness. To her invisible life. People passed her every day. Some pretended not to see her. Some looked at her with disgust. Some laughed. Some whispered cruel words. Why doesn't she just die? Useless beggar. She's probably dangerous. Era heard everything. But she stayed silent. Because deep inside, she still believed the world could be kind. She still believed that someday, someone would care. That night, the rain was heavier than ever. Water leaked through the cracks of the bridge. Soaking her blanket. Soaking her hair. Soaking her skin. Her teeth were chattering. She hugged herself. Just survive tonight, she whispered. Tomorrow will be better. That was her promise to herself. Every night. Suddenly, she heard something. A sound. Soft. Weak. Almost lost in the rain. A groan. From the dark alley nearby. Era froze. Her heart started beating fast. People often warned her. Never go into dark alleys at night. Never trust strangers. Never help anyone. Because girls like her were easy targets. She tried to ignore it. But the sound came again. Painful. Desperate. Like someone begging for life. Her hands trembled. What if someone is dying? She stood up slowly. Picked up her small flashlight. And walked toward the alley. Each step felt heavy. Her mind screamed. Go back. Run. Don't be stupid. But her heart said. If you don't help, who will? The alley was narrow and filthy. Trash everywhere. Broken bottles. Dirty water. Rats running away. The smell was terrible. She covered her nose and walked deeper. Then she saw him. A man. Lying on the ground. Unconscious. Bleeding. His shirt was soaked in dark red blood. His face was pale. Almost glowing under the flashlight. He looked unreal. Like he didn't belong in this dirty place. Like a prince who had fallen from heaven. Era gasped. Oh no. She rushed to him. Kneeled beside him. Shaking. Sir? Can you hear me? No answer. She touched his wrist. There was a pulse. Weak. But alive. She looked at the wound on his side. Deep. Dangerous. Still bleeding. If she left him, he would die. She knew it. She could run. No one would blame her. No one even knew she was here. But she didn't move. Instead, she tore her blanket. Her only protection. Wrapped it around his wound. Pressed hard. "I'm here," she whispered. "Please don't die." The rain soaked her hair. Her clothes. Her skin. She was freezing. Her hands were numb. But she kept pressing. Minutes passed. Hours passed. Her arms hurt. Her vision blurred. But she didn't stop. Because for once, she felt needed. She felt like her life mattered. Far away. In a hidden realm beyond human eyes. Chaos had erupted. Vampire guards were searching everywhere. Find him. Protect the king. He must not die. They were terrified. Because the man lying in that filthy alley was not ordinary. He was King Valen Noctis. Ruler of all vampires. Immortal. Unbeatable. Feared for 1,000 years. No enemy had ever defeated him. Until tonight. He had been ambushed. Poisoned. Left for dead. If he died, the entire supernatural world would collapse. But he was unconscious. Weak. Losing blood. Saved only by a poor human girl. Who didn't even know his name. Near dawn. The rain finally stopped. Era was exhausted. Her arms were shaking. Her lips were blue. She felt dizzy. But she smiled softly. "He's breathing better," she whispered. "Thank God." Suddenly, his fingers moved. Slightly. Then his eyes slowly opened. Red. Deep. Ancient. They met hers. For a second. Time stopped. She froze. Those eyes. They were terrifying. Beautiful. Sad. Powerful. Like they had seen centuries of pain. He stared at her. Confused. Weak. Who? His voice was low. Broken. Era smiled gently. "You're safe," she said. "I won't let you die." He tried to move. Failed. Pain hit him. He groaned. She quickly held his shoulder. "Don't move," she said softly. "You're hurt." He looked at her. At her torn clothes. Her wet hair. Her trembling hands. Her exhausted face. And he realized something impossible. This fragile human girl had saved him. For the first time in 1,000 years. Someone had helped him. Without fear. Without greed. Without knowing who he was. Something inside his frozen heart cracked. Just a little. He whispered. "Why did you stay?" Era looked at him. And answered honestly. "Because you were alone. And so was I." The next
This
morning,
passage here
Era
speaks of
woke
a
to
hidden
sunlight
truth.
streaming through
Yes,
the
I
dusty
see it now. The
windows.
symbols align.
We must
Her
decipher
hands
it.
still smelled of ink and old pages. She had been translating the Vampire King's Chronicle for 3 days. And already, she felt different. Stronger. She walked to the massive library doors. The corridors were silent, except for the faint echo of her footsteps. A shadow moved in the corner. It was him. The Vampire King. He stood taller than she remembered, his black coat brushing the floor. His eyes, dark as midnight, followed her. There was no anger. No judgment. Only curiosity. "You worked late," he said quietly. Era nodded. The manuscript, it's revealing things. About you. He studied her. Do you understand what you're uncovering? I think so, she admitted. But there's more. Much more. His lips curved slightly, a faint smile. You're brave, he said. Era's heart skipped. Brave? She had spent her life hiding. From bullies. From the world. From herself. I'm not sure I deserve that, she whispered. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the cold of his skin. I think you do, he replied. And not just because you spoke my true name. Era swallowed. Her mind flashed to that moment. The instant silence. The shock. The vulnerability she had seen in him, for the first time. And the longing. He gestured toward the manuscript. Show me what you found last night. Era opened the heavy book. Her fingers trembled as she pointed to the passage describing his transformation. The vampire elder. The blood contract. The price he had paid for immortality. He read silently, his expression unreadable. But Era could see the flicker of pain in his eyes. The memories buried for centuries were surfacing. A weight lifted, but another settled. You weren't just given immortality, she said softly. You were trapped. He looked at her, shadows of anger and sorrow crossing his face. Yes, he admitted. Trapped, alone, and silent. Watching the world move without me. Era's heart ached. She reached out, hand trembling. Maybe there's a way to break it, she said. He laughed softly, a sound that made her chest tighten. Break it? No human can undo what was done centuries ago. You don't know me, she whispered. I see you, he said. All of you. Her breath caught. You've seen the person I was, he continued. The one I forgot. The one the contract tried to erase. Era felt tears prick her eyes. She had not intended to fall for him. But here he was. Vulnerable. Honest. Human beneath the immortal. And she wanted to protect him. He stepped closer. Stay with me tonight, he said quietly. Help me remember. Help me feel. She nodded. The manuscript lay forgotten between them. Two hearts, one mortal, one immortal, beating together for the first time in centuries. Outside, the night deepened. The vampire king, feared by all, let someone in. Not just any human. Era. And in that silent, shadowed library, a spark of something unbreakable was born. Night fell over the castle like a velvet curtain, thick and silent. Candles flickered in the high hallways, casting shadows that danced like whispers. Era stayed by the vampire king's side, her fingers brushing the edge of the manuscript. He didn't speak, only watched her with eyes that seemed to pierce through her very soul. Do you ever regret it? She asked softly. Regret what? His voice was calm, but there was a weight behind it, like centuries of storms bottled inside. Becoming what you are, she whispered. He leaned back against the tall chair, the candlelight tracing the sharp lines of his face. I regret many things, he admitted. But becoming this? No. It saved me from something far worse. Era tilted her head, confused. Far worse than eternal loneliness? He smiled faintly, a shadow of sorrow in it. Yes, he said. Loneliness is a choice. What I escaped was losing myself entirely. Era felt her pulse quicken. There was so much he had never shared, so much he had buried under centuries of fear. And now she could see it all, the fragile, hidden man behind the immortal mask. Then, let me help, she said, her voice trembling but steady. He studied her for a long moment. You cannot save me, he said finally. But perhaps you can remind me who I once was. Her heart ached at that. She remembered the first day she had stepped into his world, terrified and awed. Now, it was her courage keeping him grounded. Her presence reminding him of the life he had almost forgotten. The wind moaned outside, rattling the ancient windows. Era shivered, and he moved closer, draping a dark cloak over her shoulders. The scent of him, cold, iron-tinged, faintly sweet, made her dizzy. "You are fearless," he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Or perhaps, foolish." She swallowed hard. "Maybe a little of both," she admitted. He didn't laugh, didn't reply. Instead, he took the manuscript from her hands, flipping through the pages with surprising gentleness. "Every word you've uncovered, it's a reminder," he said finally. "A reminder of what I am, and what I could become again." Era watched him, entranced, feeling the weight of history and magic pressing down on them both. Then a sudden noise shattered the quiet. A crash echoing from the northern corridor, metal against stone. He stiffened immediately, instincts sharp, eyes blazing with predator intensity. "Stay behind me," he ordered. Era nodded, heart hammering in her chest. Together, they moved toward the sound. The corridors seemed endless, dark, stretching into the unknown. And yet, she wasn't afraid. Not with him by her side. They reached the source, a shattered window, torn drapes, a shadow slipping into the night. He growled low, the sound vibrating through the walls. "The hunters," he whispered. "They've come for me, and now for you." Era's breath caught. Hunters? She had thought the past was over. But now, danger was real. And her choices, her bravery, would determine not just his fate, but hers too. He turned to her, eyes intense, almost pleading. "Run if you must," he said. But Era shook her head. "I'm not leaving you," she said firmly. For the first time, the Vampire King felt something he hadn't in centuries. Trust. Hope. And maybe, love. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, two hearts prepared for battle, against the hunters, against time, against destiny itself. Rain pelted the castle walls like a drum of warning. The northern corridor lay in ruin, shards of glass sparkling on the floor like frozen tears. Era's hands were trembling, but she gripped the edge of the Vampire King's cloak tightly. He moved with the silent precision of a predator, eyes scanning every shadow. "They're close," he murmured, voice low but sharp. "Who are they?" Era whispered, heart pounding. "Hunters," he said, fangs glinting under the candlelight. "Not ordinary ones, they know me. They know what I've become." Suddenly, a figure lunged from the darkness, a hunter in black leather, a silver blade gleaming. The Vampire King was faster. In a blur, he caught the arm, twisting it, forcing the hunter to the floor. Era gasped, the metallic scent of blood sharp in her nose. "Stay behind me," he commanded, eyes flashing with intensity. She obeyed, clutching the manuscript to her chest, feeling its warmth, its secrets. Another crash, this time from the Grand Hall. More hunters were coming, dozens of them, armed with silver-tipped weapons. Era's pulse raced. She had never seen the king like this, so raw, so dangerous. And yet, there was a strange beauty in his fury. He turned, grabbing her hand. "We run together," he said. The halls twisted around them like a labyrinth of shadow. They ducked behind fallen furniture, vaulted over shattered railings, and finally burst into the inner courtyard. The rain soaked them instantly. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the courtyard in stark, ghostly white. Era shivered, but the king's presence grounded her. They were alone, or at least, for a heartbeat, it felt that way. Then the hunters emerged, surrounding them, eyes cold, blades ready. "Give him to us," one hissed. "You won't leave here alive," another threatened. The vampire king's eyes glowed crimson. Era's hands rose instinctively, remembering the healing light she could summon. It shimmered faintly around her fingertips, trembling but fierce. "Back," he commanded, voice like steel. The hunters advanced, but he moved faster, faster than the eye could follow. Silver clashed against ancient magic, sparks flying as he struck with precision. Era followed his lead, channeling her light, cutting off hunters who got too close. For a moment, the courtyard was chaos, rain, blood, magic, and metal colliding in a storm of fury. And yet, amidst it all, Era saw him, not the monster the world feared, but a man fighting for survival, fighting for her. Lightning struck again, illuminating the final hunter approaching. The king met him head-on, strength and centuries of experience in every movement. Era stepped forward, her light flaring, a blinding pulse that made even the vampire pause in awe. The hunter fell back, blinded, and the king seized the moment. In one swift, fluid motion, he incapacitated the remaining hunters. Silence descended, broken only by the rain and their heavy breaths. Era's chest heaved, her heart pounding. You could have been killed," she whispered. He looked at her, eyes softening, a dangerous warmth beneath the crimson glow. "But I wasn't," he said. "Not while you were here." She met his gaze, understanding the weight behind his words. This wasn't just survival. This was trust. Connection. And perhaps, something more. As the storm raged outside, they stood together in the ruined courtyard, drenched, bruised, and alive. A bond forged in chaos, stronger than any fear. Stronger than centuries of darkness. But even as they caught their breath, a shadow moved in the distance, silent, patient, waiting. Era shivered, knowing this was far from over. The eternal choice. The vampire fortress lay shrouded in a velvet fog as dawn approached, though the night still clung stubbornly to the high towers and spires. Alaric stood in the central hall, the weight of centuries pressing on his shoulders like never before. The chronicles Emma had translated over the past months now lay scattered around him, each page a shard of the man he once was and the king he had become. For the first time, he could feel the full spectrum of his emotions again, grief, love, longing, and hope, and the sensation was dizzying. He had been alive for 1,000 years, but never truly present. Now, each heartbeat felt like both a gift and a risk. Emma approached silently, carrying the final manuscript she had uncovered in the fortress's hidden archives. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the knowledge of the power that now existed between them. She was no longer just a historian, she had become the bridge between Alaric's lost humanity and his immortal existence. She laid the manuscript before him. "This is the last part," she said softly. "It tells everything, the choices, the betrayals, the love you lost, and the reason you survived. It also holds the key to the future, if you're ready to see it." Alaric's eyes, dark and fathomless, fixed on hers. "I am," he whispered. "I have waited centuries to understand what I am meant to be. And now, I have you. But knowing the past makes the choices harder. Do I remain immortal and risk loving and losing again? Or do I give up the eternity I have to embrace something real, something fragile?" His voice cracked slightly, though not from weakness, only from the weight of truth. Emma stepped closer, placing a hand over his. The warmth of her human touch was a shock after centuries of cold solitude. "You don't have to choose alone," she said, her voice steady. "You can embrace who you were and who you are now. Love doesn't destroy you, Alaric. It reminds you that life, even immortal life, is worth living." Her words resonated in the vast hall, echoing off marble and shadow. The manuscript trembled under Alaric's hands as he read aloud the final passages, revealing a prophecy buried within the ancient chronicles. It spoke of a vampire who would be restored to his humanity through the acknowledgement of his true name by someone pure of heart. It spoke of love breaking the most binding curses, of the strength found in vulnerability, and of the redemption that comes from remembering who one truly is. Each word seemed to pulse with life, and Alaric felt the centuries of loneliness unraveling, thread by thread. Then, a shadow moved in the doorway. It was Celeste, the ever-watchful attendant, her expression unreadable. "Your Majesty," she said carefully, "there are forces who will not allow this reconciliation. They see the bond you share with the human as a threat to the balance of power. They will try to stop it." Alaric's jaw tightened, and his eyes glowed faintly, the ancient power within him stirring. "Then let them try," he said, his voice low and commanding. "No one can undo what has already begun. Emma knows my name. She has seen me, Alaric Wolf-Song, as I was and as I am. That bond cannot be broken." Outside, the fortress gates rattled as shadows crept closer, vampires who had opposed his rule, jealous of the mortal girl who had seen him as more than a king or a monster. But Alaric did not flinch. He turned to Emma, taking both her hands in his. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Because once we step forward, there is no turning back." Emma met his gaze without hesitation. "I'm ready," she said. "For you, for me, for everything we can be together." With that, Alaric drew upon the deepest reserves of his vampire power, calling upon the ancient magic that had bound him for centuries. Light filled the hall, ethereal and blinding, and for a moment, the world seemed suspended between reality and eternity. The shadows at the gates faltered, unable to pass through the radiance emanating from the king who had reclaimed himself. When the light faded, Alaric stood transformed, not in appearance, but in essence. The centuries of grief, loneliness, and fear had been lifted. His gaze softened, his features relaxed, and a warmth he hadn't felt in a millennium flowed through him. He was both vampire and human, immortal yet fully alive. Emma stepped forward, her hands brushing his, and in that contact, they shared the first true kiss, a kiss not of power or obligation, but of choice, trust, and love. Around them, the fortress seemed to sigh, as if acknowledging the union of past and present, human and immortal. Lily, watching from the shadows, smiled knowingly, understanding that a new chapter had begun not just for Alaric and Emma, but for all who dwelled in that strange, eternal place. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire and gold, Alaric whispered the words he had been afraid to say for centuries, "I am Alaric Wolf-Song, and I am alive." Emma rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady pulse of life beneath immortal skin. "And you are loved," she whispered back. Together, they stepped into a future neither could have imagined, bound not by fear or obligation, but by choice, understanding, and a love that transcended time itself. The vampire king had found his humanity, and the human girl had found her place beside him, not as a servant, not as an observer, but as his equal, his confidant, and the keeper of his heart. The chronicles would record their story someday, but until then, it belonged to them alone, a story of redemption, courage, and the eternal power of love.